Hi, I'm Rishi. Welcome to my YouTube astrology channel. I have been studying astrology for over 20 years and have been on the internet for about as long. So this is something I should have done a long time ago. But now is as good a time as any to start because there are changes taking place in the cosmic energy of the universe that are going to shake you up and impact your life in more ways than you can know. Rahu transits into Gemini and Ketu transits into Sagittarius on the 23rd of March 2019. And I am here to help you understand how these major transits are going to affect your life. Rahu and Ketu are considered two extremely important planets of Indian astrology. They are nodes of the moon, and they are not always understood by Western astrologers. But we believe that they are amongst the most powerful planets of Indian astrology because they alone have the ability in the horoscope to eclipse both sun and moon. Sun is considered the king of the horoscope and moon is the queen. And these two planets are the only ones with the energy to neutralize both sun and moon. In Indian astrology, we do not look at transits around sun signs. We study transits relative to the birth position of moon. So we look at where moon is placed in your natal horoscope, and we try and understand the impact of the transits around that position of moon. Every planet impacts the house it sits in as well as the house it aspects. And every house of the horoscope refers to a very specific and unique part of your life and your destiny. And there are certain houses where certain planets function well and other houses in which they don't function so well. So when we look at this aspect of Rahu and Ketu, we're going to see what houses they transit in relative to your birth moon and what houses they aspect. So I'm going to be looking at all 12 moon signs and I'm going to help you understand how these transits, Rahu into Gemini and Ketu into Sagittarius, are going to affect your life in the next 18 months. For those people whose Rashi is Taurus, Rahu transits second from your natal moon. The second house is not a very good house for Rahu to be in. The second house relates to money and wealth and finance and your general fiscal health. Rahu sitting in this house does not give very good results. So you need to be very careful over the next 18 months to ensure that there is no loss of money, there is no wasteful expenditure, that you don't end up investing in financial schemes that let you down. I'm not saying this is what is going to necessarily happen. But I'm definitely saying that these are the circumstances that are going to create in your life over the next 18 months and that you need to be watchful of. If you are careful and you are prudent, then you won't fall into the traps that Rahu is setting for you. Along with its position in the second house, it's got an aspect upon the sixth house of the horoscope. Now the sixth house is again not considered a very favorable house. It's the house of enemies. It's a house of litigation, it's a house of hospitalization, it's generally considered a house of struggle. Rahu's aspect upon this house is going to promote the qualities of this house. So there is the possibility of you developing a lot of enemies or finding a lot of enemies that you didn't expect or anticipate in the past. There's the possibility of getting caught up in some legal situations, some health situations. So, as I told you, your second house placement of Rahu is showing the loss of money. And its aspect upon the sixth house is also showing that, there will be a lot of enemies in this phase. There is the possibility of litigation, there's a possibility of hospitalization, all of which is suggesting loss of wealth. So you need to be very careful in your dealing with people. You need to be very careful in your interaction with people to ensure that enemies don't get created when there is no reason for enemies to be there in your life. And there is not the possibility of financial loss as a result of litigation or health issues or other such factors. Rahu also aspects the house of profession for a horoscope where moon is placed in Taurus during this transit. Again, Rahu is not favorably inclined towards this horoscope. So there is the possibility that it's going to create trouble in profession, it's going to create trouble with colleagues at work. We've already seen that its aspect upon the 6th house is going to create enemies. So you may end up creating enemies at work. You may end up having bad relations with people that are your colleagues, that's going to result in loss in some way. You are not going to prosper professionally. We've already seen that there is the loss of wealth. It could be due to the fact that you underperform professionally in your professional environment. You end up not doing as well as you should be doing, and that reflects upon your salary or upon, the sort of raise that you could have got or the bonus that you've got. So there is some indication of financial loss as a result of this transit over the next 18 months. Now, again, this is not an element of certainty. This is a possibility. And if you are careful about it, if you are watchful, if you are sure that you don't fall into any of these traps that Rahu is laying for you, then you could escape it quite easily. So be very careful at work. Do not allow yourself to feel restless about your professional situation. Don't end up creating conflict with your colleagues. Don't end up feeling unsettled for no real reason in your professional environment. All of this is going to help you maintain your financial health. It's going to protect your money situation, and it's going to ensure that this transit of Rahu goes through without too much struggle in your chart. Along with this transit of Rahu through Gemini, there is the transit of Ketu through Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the 8th house from moon when moon is placed in Taurus. Now, the 8th house is not considered a particularly good house in astrology. Some astrologers refer to it as the house of death. Now, I don't look at it as the house of death, but I look at it as a house of difficulties. But in another way, it is also the house of great possibility, because some texts refer to the 8th house as the house of Gur Vidya, the house of hidden wisdom. Ketu is naturally a spiritual planet. Ketu is known as a mokshkari greh. It's a planet which promotes the process of inner discovery. And when Ketu transits through the 8th house from moon, instead of death, it could create the pursuit of hidden wisdom. It could create a pursuit of inner discovery, of knowledge that you have not considered up to this point. In fact, I've seen a lot of astrologers, a lot of clairvoyants, a lot of people involved with the occult who have a very strong and a very potent 8th house. So if you are considering learning some new skill, acquiring some new knowledge, this transit of Ketu could help you do that. But from a worldly perspective, from a financial perspective, from a professional perspective, it's not likely to give you extremely powerful results. Ketu also aspects the house 12th from natal moon for a horoscope where moon is in Taurus. The 12th house, again, is considered a house of difficulties. It's considered a house of struggle, of suffering, of hospitalization, all of these things which are considered impediments towards your worldly pleasures and worldly success. But the 12th house is also considered the house of moksha, the house of salvation and spiritual liberation. Ketu, we've already discussed, is naturally a planet of spiritual liberation. So Ketu's aspect upon this 12th house, while it's not likely to give you very good worldly results, it's not very good for money and career and your romantic alliances and so on, it could help you go deeper into your spiritual self. It could aid in the process of self-discovery, of inner discovery. So you're going to do a lot of work on yourself over the next 18 months as a result of Ketu's transit through Sagittarius. It's not something to feel concerned about, but it's very important to be aware of it so that you can be prepared for it. Ketu also has an aspect upon the 4th house of a horoscope that has moon in Taurus. Now, the fourth house naturally refers to mother, your home environment. It's known as the Sukhasthan. It's the place from where the extent of happiness that an individual experiences is seen. It's a place of movable and immovable assets. Now, Ketu, being a naturally separative planet, a spiritual planet, is not going to promote the qualities of this house. Moreover, the fourth house from Taurus is owned by Sun, and we've already seen that Ketu doesn't have a very good relationship with Sun, so it's going to attempt to harm this house in some way. It doesn't mean that you're headed into a really bad time and that everything is going to be destroyed in your home environment and that, you know, you're not going to have any joy or peace or happiness during this transit. No, it doesn't. But it does mean that you're going to move away from those social activities that are identified by this house. You're going to probably want to spend more time by yourself. You're going to spend time on your inner pursuits. You're going to spend time on your individual pursuits, which means that you may not have that much time for social activities related to your home environment, to your family, and so on. It's not a bad phase, but as I said, this entire transit is speaking of inner discovery. And that inner discovery is gained at the cost of social interactions. Isolation is the price that you have to pay for such attainments. So there is the possibility that you're going to spend more time by yourself, that you're going to be less involved in social activities. And on a slightly disturbing note, there is the possibility that your mother's health will be impacted to some extent during the next 18 months. It's good to be aware of this because you can be more careful, you can be more cautious, you can track your mother's health more regularly to ensure that this transit of Ketu through Sagittarius does not create any undesired or unwanted results over the next 18 months. I would like to mention that these are the results that you can expect due to the transit of Rahu and Ketu into these new signs. But there are 7 other planets that are transiting in the universe at the same time. We have to study those results as well. And we have to study the nature of your individual horoscope, how the planets are positioned there, their relationship with each other, before we can get a complete picture of what can be expected in your life. However, I feel reasonably certain that the results that I have spoken of just now are the circumstances that will attempt to manifest in your lives over the next 18 months as a result of Rahu's transit through Gemini and Ketu's transit through Sagittarius. Thank you for watching my video. I look forward to hearing your comments and suggestions, as well as your ideas about what I should do in other videos that I'm planning up ahead. Do write to me.